What, in your mind, is the immediate fallout here? Are we going to see regulation coming down the pike?
Thank you very much for having me on the show again. It's really good to be back, especially to talk about this. I think first thing I want to say is that at least MidChains, our organization, which is fully regulated in ADGM as an exchange and custodian, is not impacted. So we're not directly impacted. We had no direct ties to FTX. Now, what I see as the potential fallout for this, at least from what I'm seeing in terms of public information available, is that, first of all, the clients of FTX and as well the employees of FTX who are unaware are definitely impacted, and we feel for those people because this is a major financial loss for them. Now, what the ripple effects that could come across in the rest of the industry is especially in the firms that were trading on FTX, the lenders to FTX and Alameda, and potentially the wider banks that were dealing with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But think about it this way. It just isn't good. It's not a good look for crypto.
No.
No. So what is the fallout in your mind from that? Because we've been debating, you and I, for a long time now about the crypto space.
So there's two sides to the coin. You have, on the one side, firms like us who took a regulatory first approach with progressive regulators like here in ADGM. And I expect other regulators around the world to actually take a serious look at crypto and look at the examples that we've made here and a few other places in the world that have done the same. And on the other side of that, what we're seeing a lot on the internet, at least among, call it, the early adopters, is people are going back to self-custody, holding their own assets on their own devices and trading only on programmatic, decentralized venues, which aren't necessarily, or at least allegedly, controlled by people.
And that's because there's a serious trust deficit in the industry. This is going to take years to rebuild, Basil. So what can exchange operators do now to try and firm up public confidence in their operations? Because obviously this is going to have ongoing impacts for the industry for much, much longer to come. This isn't something that you can just repair and rebuild overnight. Why should people trust you?
So I agree with that point. It's going to take a long time, and I think that a lot of exchange CEOs out there are trying to regain trust and rebuild trust by showing what they're calling proof of reserves. Although it's a nice step in the right direction, I think it's not quite enough because reserves can be moved around at any time, and it doesn't show the liability side of the balance sheet or what the creditors could potentially take from those venues, custodians, exchanges, brokers, etc. What would work, in my view, is really going back down to basics. Following a regulatory regime which includes being audited by reputable third parties and being monitored for client account reconciliations on a daily basis. We've been doing that since we started on day one. It's super important. And I think other firms who wish to have that credibility or build that credibility should consider looking at regulation seriously and putting the effort in. It is effort.
So where do you think it all went wrong for SBF and FTX?
Was this a fraud from the beginning?
It's hard to say. I don't actually know because I don't know people on the inside who would share such information. I've only ever met SBF once, and that was when he was here for FII in Riyadh in the region just in October.
Did you trust him when you met him?
Honestly, it was a very short meeting. I didn't have enough information to make a character judgment. So what I would say is that it's important for these businesses to kind of look at this example to say, okay, there was two firms operating as sister companies. One was a hedge fund, one was a crypto exchange. And what it appears is that in the last kind of fallout with a few firms going under, such as Luna, 3AC, etc., that client money was taken from FTX to subsidize the hedge fund's operation, Alameda in that case. Now, I don't know this for sure, but at least this is what it seems to be on the surface. And that, for example, would be illegal in our case, as far as a regulated exchange is concerned. Client money is client money, and we're legally bound to hold client money one-to-one, because if we don't, then it's misappropriation. It seems that that's the misstep.
When you think about what happens next, is this the end, in your mind, of the crypto evangelists?
Not necessarily. I think they will always exist in some shape or form.
Well, the bigger question as well is how quickly that regulation is going to come down the pike, at least from the U.S.
Correct. I think a lot hinges on what the U.S. will decide, at least for the bigger players that are based there.